What's good, y'all? Welcome to Cavernous Frequency, where we try to get deep into things, so deep that it's like the depths of a cavern. If this rings a bell, that means that you were a listener rather, of the podcast of the same name, Cavernous Frequency. And that would also mean you recognize my voice. I am Austin, and in front of me, of course, is Donzel.
Yeah.
So, what do you have for us today, sir?
So a lot of things have been going on in this country, on this planet. Interesting things. But if you've listened to, or if you remember me mentioning it before, it's been a while since we talked about it, but I remember talking to you about, how hip hop is a good representation of the black community here in America.
Mm-hmm.
How we pretty much birthed the culture of hip hop, and it's always been a pretty accurate reflection of us and the way we are through the generations. Like, you can study hip hop music from the time it was created to the 80s to the 90s and kind of get a good viewpoint of the mind state of black people, just not on a mainstream level. You can't look at just the mainstream.
You got to take everything into account. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
all encompassing.
Take into account, like, a lot of the artists that aren't getting radio play, that are popular on a local level, that you may not have heard of, but a lot of people have heard of their niche fan base,
Mm-hmm.
And we just had an eclipse, and they say that the eclipses are signs and warnings of things that are to come.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that we had one is a sign that things are coming, that's going to change things, Things are going to be changing.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So what is the direction of this one?
I'm just curious about what the direction of the change is for our people.
Okay.
So looking at hip hop right now.
Just real quick, because you did bring this up the other day, and you said, in a general sense, it's going to be a more so negative direction.
Yeah. From what I was told about this eclipse,
Okay.
It's like a thing. It's like not supposed to be a good thing. Okay, bad things, hard times are gonna be coming.
Okay.
And I guess that's a little bit supported by a lot of people talking about the apocalypse and everything, and Jesus returning and the rapture happening, and you've been hearing a lot of talk like that surrounding the eclipse. So this one, it's supposed to be something like a warning. I think a lot of people said, a lot of different cultures said that the eclipses were like warnings of like bad omens. They weren't necessarily good signs,
There was that earthquake that did happen, like leading up to the eclipse as well. And because I was hearing people say stuff about this and that happening, I'm thinking to myself, what if the earth just opened up and a bunch of just shit just came out the ground, whether it be demons or whatever.
That would kind of, I feel like a lot of the older Christians, they would be happy to hear that, just because it would show that they were right about the rapture and everything.
Until they're the ones getting yanked down.
Yeah, and then they realize, hold on, I didn't hear any trumpets or anything. Yeah. Then they wouldn't be happy anymore.
No.
But I would be happy now.
Wow. These are just jokes, by the way. No need for anyone to be offended.
You can be offended. Okay.
Well, he doesn't care if you're offended, but I care if you're offended. In this particular case.
In this particular case, I don't care. Religious.
Well, on brand for him if you are familiar with our content. But anyway, continue.
But I'm just wondering, because I feel like hip hop also foreshadows some things that we're going to be doing as a people. And one thing you have noticed going amongst the community is a lot more people talking about love, light, spirituality, a lot of like getting your energy right, a lot of inner healing. You hear about that a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you got in hip hop right now a big thing going on because there's like there's a little like supposed to be a back and forth between rappers, as it's just like a part of hip hop. You're just supposed to go back and forth sometimes when you're challenged, and it's just like competition. There might be a rap beef, you know, it doesn't mean you're beefing in real life, just a rap beef. So J. Cole Kendrick Lamar came at Drake and threw slight shots at J. Cole. J. Cole responded, and then within like 2 days of making the diss track, he got on stage and apologized because he didn't really mean the things that he said.
He said
he
it
didn't
didn't
feel any type of way about it.
He said it didn't sit well with the spirit.
Yeah, didn't sit well with his spirit. So he apologized and got out of that so-called rap beef. A lot of people are upset about that.
What is your take on it?
My take on it is I find it interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed. But I do find it interesting that a lot of people are taking it as hard as they're taking it. You know? Because I do understand, because he got you ready for a battle. You know, he even gave you a little bit of that, teased you a little bit with it, and then he said, "I'm not battling anymore." He kind of like did the equivalent of a girl giving you blue balls. You know, that's pretty much what.
It's fair. It's fair.
So like, so when people get over that, you know, that are in anticipation for that battle, I feel like they're not going to judge it as harshly. But there are some people saying things like, he's saying that he's the best. He's saying that he'll destroy anybody that challenges him. They can't really take that seriously anymore.
So what I'll say to that, me personally, just to put my thoughts out there, the initial thoughts with everything, being someone that's followed J. Cole for like most of his career, this all played out in a very J. Cole manner. So with him initially specifically putting out the 7-minute drill song, I listened to it, and because of the nature of the stuff that he was saying, that surprised me. And if anything, that was the least J. Cole thing that he did. And him apologizing, that it kind of just, you know, rectified that in a, like, not entirely, because like it shouldn't have been released in the first place. All honesty, it really shouldn't have. You could even tell from the energy he was putting into what he was saying. He didn't believe it. He didn't buy any of that stuff himself. So why are you even saying that? So him to apologize for it, I'm fine with it. It is what it is. As far as people being upset because he's been having a lot of the energy of like, yeah, I'm the best rap out here, I can out rap anybody. I think you can still, me personally, I believe you can still convey that without having to, as people have said, be battle tested in a actual beef space. Because like when he out rapped Drake on First Person Shooter, that wasn't a battle, like in the sense of like a beef. It was a battle in the sense of like, all right, I'm gonna out rap you.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna take over on your song.
Yeah, I will exactly. I'll out rap you on your own song. Same thing with any of these other features that he's done. He's been on a major feature run for the past 3 to 5 years, something like that. So it's like,
that's kind of why I find it interesting, because it's just like, because as of right now, a lot of people are saying it's like an L, and I'm not gonna lie, I think it is for this moment.
I think it's more of an L
for this moment.
I think it's more of an L, not in my opinion, but objectively, people are calling it more of an L because of other things. But keep going.
Yeah, I would just say it's an L just because he allowed people to gas him up, say something that he didn't really believe in, to give the people what they wanted. I would say that is an L because he had to take it back, and when you release something like that, you should be able to stand on it. So it's kind of an L just because he did put something out there that he had to take back. And also, it really was his opportunity to prove that he was the number one of the big three.
Right.
And Kendrick challenged them both a little bit, mostly Drake. But J. Cole made it an official challenge when he made 7 Minute Drill.
Yeah.
And then he went and said, never mind. He backed out of it. Now he's no longer in the running for like
the top spot.
Yeah, the top spot. So it is an L because of that. Because he could have handled it in a different way. He could have responded in a way where he made it clear there was no beef. It's just going to be rap competition. Maybe even challenge him to like a rap battle. You know.
The problem is, for me, if we're going to even indulge in any of this, given the relationship you've seemingly had with Kendrick for all these years, hit the man up. Yo, let's do a track real quick. Let's try to out-rap each other. That's what I was expecting it to be from the start anyway.
Yeah.
He should have hit Kendrick up. He should have hit him up.
Didn't he get on motherfucking what's his face's John later futures?
That
he
in
did the John, and it's like you reneged just to do that shit. I mean, I ain't mad at it. I just think it's funny, and like now it's a lot of build up against Drake.
We're not trying to get into all that though.
that
but,
was.
I mean, that still go hand in hand with the point you was talking about how he retracting his statement, but just to end up on the remix of something that was originally a diss that, like, he didn't diss anybody on it, but it's,
see, that does not go hand in hand with the point that I was making. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to get into that deep and all that.
But yeah, we left off. Yeah, he should have just hit Kendrick up.
Yeah, I don't think he should have. I think he just should have responded in a track, but make it clear that it's just on some rap shit
And not make it a beef.
Yeah, I think he would have if he did that, they'd have been good. Or if they did, like you said, they just made a track together. You know,
I mean,
so you could outbar each other.
Who's to say they might not still? Just on some like friendly shit. Might not be like, outbarring or like, dissing or anything. I mean, also if you are both on a track and have an equal amount of bars, anyways, it kind of goes like that. Because think of like, when Big Sean was on the John, or had Kendrick on his John. Wasn't like they would go bar for bar, but like niggas definitely like noted.
Yeah, in a space like that, it's not direct like attacks at each other, but it's very much like apparent that one person's trying to have the better verse, and that's more in the nature of hip hop in that sense.
Yeah, though it ain't too late for them to do that.
Yeah.
But ain't nobody really trying to hear it no more after the apology. A lot of people ain't.
I mean, the apology was one thing, but like it was just mentioned a second ago, for J. Cole to be featured on that Future album, that makes it that makes it like that. I think that's the nail in the coffin, because people online calling this man a traitor, and it's like,
who's the traitor?
I don't even think that. I don't even want to focus on Future because
No, it's not the focus on Future. It's not the focus on Future, but go ahead.
Because it's like, that's an entirely different thing, Future and Drake. J. Cole has nothing to do with that.
No,
I don't know why people are expecting him to pick sides, because it's never been in his personality to actually pick sides with the beef. He's been like cool with everybody. Kendrick and Drake have been beefing for a minute, like behind the scenes and everything.
And
J. Cole is still cool with both of them.
And that's the core of the
Apparently,
issue,
not
though.
just Kendrick and Drake have been beefing because these niggas coming at Drake. Oh, Rick Ross made a joint. He was even explaining what his beef with him was and why he unfollowed him. Just calling him white boy and everything. And his beef with him had something to do with some sniff shit he did towards.
Yeah, I don't care about Rick Ross beef. I don't care about any of the Drake beefs going on outside the Cole thing. To be honest.
No, I get it.
So for this that aspect of it, though, I think
It was French Montana, I think.
for J. Cole, his position now, I think it's I brought that feature on the Future album up, Future and Metro Boomin album. I bring that up because that's like, if he again just played things like more in line with him and how he's been his entire career, I don't think anybody would have cared. Like, granted, so I know I said, like, let me modify what I said earlier. If I had it my way, he wouldn't have said anything, because I initially didn't want him to say anything, because Kendrick's verse on Like That was him going at Drake. J. Cole just happened to be there, but that was him going at Drake. J. Cole saying anything was going to take the attention off of Drake and make it seem as though he was the one that was the more of the person that was the focus of what Kendrick was saying, which he wasn't. And I mean, at the time, I was also under the impression that J. Cole saying something was going to give a reason for Drake to just fall back and not say anything. Obviously, that ended up being wrong because Drake did say something, but that's aside from the point. Yeah, J. Cole not saying anything, that would have just kept him in that middle ground space that he always likes to be in. And if anything, he just makes a regular song continuing to impose his lyrical ability and just leave it at that. But like doing all that extra stuff and you not even believing it, yeah, it was a bad look. So apologizing, that was the best thing he could do. It just made it worse for like the next thing for him to be involved with was that Future project. And then it's like people are kind of doing this like taking sides thing. So now it's like it looks like you switched sides when it was like you were never on the side in the first place. But
yeah, I feel like I'm not even entertaining that because it's just nonsense. Like a bunch of maybe like 12-year-olds came up with it. The song was probably recorded like months before.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All this shit even happened.
I agree. And anybody with
he
some
didn't make any
sense.
shots at anybody. It wasn't about anybody or anything. It was literally he just made a song with Future.
Anybody with some sense would know that was probably some shit that was pre-recorded. And given that Metro's involved as well, and he also seemingly has a problem with Drake, for all we know, he could have gave that verse to Metro and not even Future. And Metro was like, oh yeah, this is a good time. Yeah, everybody's against Drake now. I'm gonna even put Cole on here. Because seemingly most of the features on those albums have been from people that have some type of problem with Drake. Not everybody, because Travis was on there. I don't think he gives a shit. But Ross was on there. A$AP Rocky was on. The We Still Don't Trust You. Weeknd, I believe, was on both. I don't know where Chris Brown stands, but he was on one of them, I believe, right?
I think so.
So, yeah, but all that being said, yeah, it just, the optics are just really bad. And he just would have fared better if he just didn't say anything. Just left it alone. But,
yeah, he probably would have. It probably would have been. But here's the reason I think I'm kind of glad he did. Because remember, like I said, with the eclipse coming in, it's a sign of things that are coming to, like, change to come.
mm-hmm.
So there are two perspectives to look at this from, like the J. Cole apology thing.
Okay.
There's one where it's just like one of the leaders of hip hop right now has backed out from a competition, right? That's not hip hop. But you've got two leaders in a competition, Drake and Kendrick, beefing with each other. Just a rap beef. So J. Cole, there's no need for him to do that too. J. Cole is cool with everybody. He's embodying like a more unified, the unity aspect, the more love aspect of hip hop. And that's still hip hop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So now, notice that J. Cole's streams have went up since he apologized.
I haven't noticed, but
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
It's I find that interesting. So is hip hop about to like go into a more positive direction, you know, with everybody talking about healing and everything? J. Cole is being an example of that by choosing not to beef, choosing to just, you know what, instead of getting involved in y'all competition and tearing other people down to show your superiority, I'm just gonna bow out of this competition and focus on myself, be the best version of myself that I can be. And you can still leave a legacy in hip hop that way. Because J. Cole's has left a major legacy, you know. And it's still like hey, if I get on your track with you, people gonna forget it's your song.
Right.
It's my song now. He can still do that though. Like murder you on your own track.
Yeah. What was it?
So I'm saying, like, I'm asking, is hip hop going in more of a direction where you don't have to beef as much, or where there's a subsection where you don't have to be just as hard as like we've been in the past decade or two?
So what I was going to say is, I personally, because of where J. Cole stands, even though granted you're saying his streams went up, I feel like a lot of that is his core fan base contributing to that. But regardless of that, I think it's going to ultimately be based on how this Kendrick-Drake battle plays out. Because to me, like, you can, I mean, not to say that Drake is the villain per se, but if you're going to pick a villain out of this, Drake's the villain. Like, and the reason I'm saying that is in the context of like hip hop and what hip hop represents. Kendrick more so is more aligned with that. Drake is basically the pop star in this. He's the one that's, even based on like a lot of what he's speaking to in the in his diss record. It's a lot of stuff that's corporate, a lot of stuff that's superficial, a lot of stuff that's based on numbers, popularity, and like just like metrics and stuff like that. But at least the stuff that's referring to Kendrick.
See, I wouldn't phrase it as a villain. I would phrase it as, I like how they're the big three, even though, if we're gonna be honest, it's never really been a big three conversation. It's really been like a big four, which would be J. Cole, Kendrick, Drake, and Future.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just based on just off the influence, Future's massive
Really?
influence.
I guess, I mean, I don't know.
People love Future.
I don't hate him or like inherently like.
Future's not your cup of tea. Neither
Yeah,
is
I never
mine.
was really
But,
into. I never really got
can't
into
deny
his
that.
music. Like, it's not to say he ain't had some songs that I do bang with, you know, but he was just never really. So he always went over my radar. But like, I can't act like he didn't, you know. He ain't where you at. He's where you at for a reason, you know.
Yeah, Future's big, and I feel like all of them embody a little bit of different aspects of hip hop.
Yeah.
Now, on the more flashier side, you got Drake, Future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drake is more about, you know, the braggadocious. I'm getting all the girls. I'm
Future
the
kinda
cool
is
guy. I'm getting a lot of money. You know, Future's kind of like that too, except he's like edgier street and everything.
Even though it's fake, you nigga talk about drugs he ain't never did. Allegedly.
Realness doesn't really matter.
It's
It's just
supposed
what they-
to. That was always one of the cores though. The niggas from back in the day talking about the shit they did that shit. Like,
oh yeah,
That's why he's saying these two are more so the mainstream and in the mainstream.
you're selling a dream. It's an image.
That's the mainstream.
that's what the industry is.
Yeah.
So whether it's real or not, doesn't matter.
Drake's body apparently ain't even real.
And just to clarify, like I use the word villain, just like not. I'm not literally saying like these dudes are villains, but I'm saying like within the context of hip hop, I guess more so the people that are more aligned with what the essence of it is, and those two are further away from what the essence of hip hop is to me.
Yeah, I can see that. But
Yeah.
but like going back to why I said like the realness doesn't matter. I'm talking about this part of hip hop, which is more like the image, the flashy, the braggadocious, you know, the pop star thing, where you can talk about, you know, like Rick Ross. He's also on that side too, where it's just like you can talk about killing people, gangsters, and everything. He's saying he's got favors by Escobar. We know he doesn't have any favors.
This man stole his name from a real gangster who ended up suing his ass.
We all know none of it is real, you know. So that's that side of hip hop where it's just an entertaining, flashy image. You know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got another side of hip hop, which is like J. Cole represents, which is more so like the everyday people. You know, he's just trying to rap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not even trying to be braggadocious. He's more like, I guess, conscious. He's about the message and everything. He's about unity and getting together with everybody. So he signed a bunch of people. Their label's like a family and everything. And it's not even limited to just like rappers. He's got Ari Lennox, you know. He's got JID. He's got Earth Gang. He's got a whole community of people that he's bought for.
Kendrick?
No, J. Cole.
Oh.
Dreamville, you know.
Oh no,
He's
yeah,
created
he did
all
say
that.
he got it.
So
He got
he's like the embodiment of more of that unity. We can do something with our art form. And then Kendrick is a
feel
little
like
bit
he's the
more of
best,
the
like-
more militant aspect. You know what I mean?
He's the best
Where he's
embodiment
also
of old
cautious.
school shit.
Wait. What are you saying?
I feel like he's the best embodiment of like that older mentality with
J.
like,
Cole or Kendrick?
Kendrick. With like the root of it, even just like that West Coast sound and shit like that. He's like very reminiscent of like, you know,
90s,
early
which was
2000s.
yeah, I'd say definitely 90s. A little bit more militant.
And he about
He's
his
a lot
shit.
more-
He really been out here doing shit. Like,
Yeah, he's a lot more aggressive and everything. He's that competitive and rebellious aspect of hip hop. You know,
he don't even necessarily gotta be aggressive because he can still be like goofy with it and shit. But it's just.
he's definitely more aggressive though. He's I guess.
No, I'm saying he don't just have to be aggressive. I'm not disagreeing that he's more aggressive, but he like, you know.
You're talking about in the sense of like his artistry,
Yeah.
but like within like the sense of like I'm better than you. He's more aggressive.
Oh
with
yeah,
that
no,
mentality.
of course, I know that. But yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes to his artistry, but what he embodies, yeah, of course.
And
And he's also, to go along with it, like they're both the more conscious side of hip hop. You know what I mean? For lack of a better term, you know, conscious side. And all of those forms of hip hop are pretty important, by the way.
real
I'd say
quick
Drake's.
quick sidebar. What is like? Do you believe in like the whole label of a conscious rapper? Because at this point, I don't. The only nigga that's really a conscious rapper is Common.
Conscious just means you're aware. So I would say a conscious rapper is somebody who's aware of what's going on in the world and talks about things that are actually going on in the world. So things beyond just entertainment.
So where I'm at when it comes to that, and you know, in a technical sense, yes, like there are rappers that are conscious in that way, but the label of conscious rapper, I don't like how people try to like impose that label on rappers and then they be expecting all this other stuff around it. Like, I don't think we need to talk about it in this video, but I just have a take on that. But my bad, just sidebar.
It's
But,
not about spiritual level too.
well, yeah, there's a conversation about that too. But.
I think they all represent different aspects of hip hop. And for the longest time, a more aggressive, hardcore image, of the mainstream is what took over, in a more destructive variety. Because another category, there's like the drug rap and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of taken over too, but I feel like we're at a point where you've got Drake, Kendrick, Cole, Future. The change that's coming to hip hop, I feel it's going to be one of these four styles that's going to be taken over as like the more mainstream thing of what hip hop is coming to be.
And that's why I say, if you're like in the context of like sticking to hip hop, like the core values of it, that's why I'm saying Kendrick is, I guess, more so the one that I think a lot like a lot more of the like hip hop heads are rooting for. Like, aside from how you feel about each rapper on the skill level, just on what they represent. If Drake, like was mentioned, he put out his record. If he basically comes out superior, that's like, I'm just saying, I think that will like put the nail in the coffin for like the actual like core essence of hip hop, like ever resurging to be what it was.
Yeah, honestly, I do find it interesting because like it's almost like the battle of ideals. Drake has kind of brought about this whole sneak dissing thing where you're not really saying the person's name in the song, and it's been like that for a minute. Kendrick came along and was like, forget all that, fuck sneak dissing. And notice that Drake is saying people's names in this diss track that he made, not just Kendrick's. He's saying a lot of people's names. He's not sneak dissing anymore.
For once.
So it's like Kendrick set that tone for that. So Kendrick versus Drake, are we gonna get this new, more style of hip hop where it's a little bit more feminine in its approach as far as like attack? It's not very direct. And when I say feminine, I mean like feminine principle, masculine principle, like the energy, not like man and woman, just to be clear. So more direct, it's more masculine. So just saying, calling you out by name, or is it going to be more of the subliminal, got to get into detective mode? It turns out this bar is about Kendrick,
Yeah.
Or is it going to be like a thing where first 10 seconds of the song, fuck Jay-Z,
Like some of the most iconic rap disses, you hear a name like loud and clear. And I'm not making this point because I'm reading people's reactions to Drake's diss, and some random person had said it was like one of the best disses of all time. It was like the main target. He said a lot of the names. He still did not say Kendrick's name. He said Top's name. He said Metro's name.
He said K-Dot.
He said K-Dot?
Well, yeah, he said, I don't care what Cole thinks, that dot shit was weak as fuck.
He said that. I thought he said that shit was weak as fuck.
No, he said that dot shit.
That last shit was weak as fuck. I don't think he said dot.
I thought he said dot.
I'm pretty sure he said that last shit was weak as fuck. I'll look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure he, at no point did he say like directly K-Dot or Kendrick. If he said, he may have said K-Dot in a different context, but from that bar, he said that last shit was weak as fuck.
Yeah, I thought he said that dot shit. But I'd have to double check because it's still all these like not so good quality leaks.
Yeah, it hasn't been officially released yet, but apparently Drake sent DJ Academics the official release, but whatever. But even him saying that, like, given what Kendrick's last album was and how deep he went with that project, like, aside from my personal feelings of that album, I just objectively, I think it's important for a project like that to have some level of appreciation for an artist to go that deep into expressing whatever, like just expressing anything like that they, you know, in that depth. And for not only like for that album to constantly be shot down, but if the person that's shooting it down in this case is the type of artist he is, and again, if he comes out on top, where's the appreciation for that type of music going to go?
Never thought of it like that before.
Good, because it's like, you know, obviously, like I think the sound of the album may not be the most appealing thing. It's not a bunch of trap beats. It's not a bunch of the, you know, typical well received sounds that people hear in, you know, the more popular songs. But even the artistry of it, again, that should be appreciated. I feel like there should still be a space for that, not for people to just look at like I said, I was saying earlier, the shallow shit about it. Like, oh yeah, the album didn't sell well. People not bumping that in the club. Who gives a fuck? Forget about all that stuff. Like, listen to what this man is saying. And like, sure, it's a lot of heavy stuff. And I'm not saying people should be bumping it in the club or anything like that. But at least have enough appreciation and respect for it, for somebody going out their way to go that deep to share with the world and to put that out there. How deep is this nigga Drake gone with anything? Marvin's Room?
I mean,
Like, come on.
he was a lot more introspective when he first came out, to be honest.
To that degree? And it's not even necessarily right now, at least, to go at Drake. Like, you know, because, you know, to each his own. Not everybody has to go that deep. Not everybody has to share that much. But for those that do, it shouldn't just be scoffed at just because it doesn't sound mainstream. And that's my position in this, personally, as just a fan. Like, forget about, you know, the beef aspect of it. Like, sure, I have a person that I favor more, but it's less about me being more of a fan of this person than the other. It's more about how are people going to respond after, if this is the outcome.
Like the outcome overall for Drake versus Kendrick.
Yeah, like, so, and, you know, like you were saying, it's like, not like, I think that it's just a sidebar to consider how many people have a problem with this man now, for them to be like going at him this much. I think that's more telling about the character of this person, but none of us in here know him, so that's a different conversation. But more,
yeah, Drake does, not gonna lie, the way Drake does seem, he does not seem to be a person that has too much integrity.
Yeah, not at all. So, like,
don't hear him treating his people that good, to be honest.
Yeah, and, you know, even just aside from that aspect of it, what are people, like, musically going to do after that? Like, are people going to still be willing to, like, challenge themselves musically? You know, like in the vein of a Kendrick, and, you know, like, all this being said, I don't think it's going to, like, I don't think that's going to be something that completely just goes away or disappears if, you know, Drake comes out superior, you know, because the existence of the internet, there's going to always be a space for people to do creative stuff artistically, but just in the vein of what's getting the most exposure. You know, I think this will determine that.
Honestly, there's still, of course, we've got the obvious one, Kendrick versus Drake, but that's just the big battle. I feel like the biggest effect might be the two that decide might be the ones that are not involved in the battle at all. Like, maybe J. Cole chose not to battle, focus on himself and grow as a rapper. Maybe more people start doing that because they're like, look at the legacy that Cole would have left behind compared to a Kendrick, compared to a Drake. Just right now, if all of them retired right now, it's just like Kendrick does have, I think, a better albums as a legacy, right? Drake's got better worldwide popularity and a lot of singles. Cole, he's got solid albums. He's got one classic album, and then he's got classic projects that he's brought together with his people in Dreamville. You got Ari Lennox, you got Earth King, you got JID, you got Boss, you got Kaz. All these people would not exist if Cole was not a rapper. You know what I mean? So, like, overall for hip hop itself, you know, do you think it's a possibility that people look at it and like, you know what? We're just not going to beef. We don't need to do that to be great. Look at Cole being great on his own. And that be the effect. Because I've noticed that the direction hip hop goes is also the direction that the black community has a tendency to go, and vice versa. The direction the black community goes is the direction hip hop goes. With everybody talking about healing and everything, Kendrick Lamar just made an album where it's predominantly about healing, where it actually goes along thematically with what J. Cole did with his apology. You know what I mean?
So
Do you think that's a possibility?
So that's kind of what I'm speaking to when it comes to Drake. I mean, yeah, Drake and Kendrick. So like my thinking, like, just to, I guess, sum it all up when it comes to that, because that was like, that's the last album he put out, and that's the album that got the least amount of like sales, and that's the album that's being criticized the most. You know, people calling it boring, calling it lame, whatever they want to call it, like having these negative critiques towards it, just because it's not some shit that you can bump in the club or whatever. I think it's possible that if Drake is the one that comes out superior, that will just further validate that. But bringing it to J. Cole at this point, because of how things have transpired, that Fall Off album has to be amazing. It has to be. I think it would have just been fine if it was just good in, like, really good in J. Cole terms, if he did not do the diss. But because he did the diss and people have kind of lost favor for him, he has to, like, bounce back in a very big way and then be able to go out on his own terms. Because take away that diss, if he just played the J. Cole, Kendrick does the like that verse, J. Cole is basically responds and says, look, like, that's my man's, he did his thing on that song, I'm not trying to get into a actual beef or battle with him. I'll go verse for verse with him at any time, but anything further than that, I ain't trying to do it. If he just stuck to that and kept it more true to what his character is, I think he would have been fine going out on his own terms and just ending things with the Fall Off album.
I feel like it's not too late for that. He could have it on the Fall Off, or he actually has. This is just what I would like to see. Remember Absol on These Days? He had the last song, he had Daylight on it, and he battled with Daylight.
Yeah.
I would like for J. Cole to do something like that with Kendrick.
No, I think it's not like certain things can't still happen. What I'm saying is just how people view J. Cole and view the whole thing of, like, you know, the self-reflection and staying true to yourself and stuff like that. Like, if the Fall Off album is received as being a bad album or whack, I think it'll just validate everybody's stance on him, and it'll, like, people will start having this revisionist history and make it like, oh yeah, see, like, yo, like, Cole had to get up out the game now because he made a fool of himself so poorly, even though he's been alluding to this album for years. I think people will start to change the narrative, and it'll turn into, damn, J. Cole gotta retire now because he apologized because of that whack-ass diss he did. And it's like, that's not what it was. So I think to silence all of that noise the fall off, like the standard for that album is like a lot higher now. Like that has to be
Yeah, that's
his.
gotta be like his Black Album.
It has to be.
It's
It
gotta be an
has to
album
be.
worthy of you retiring off of.
It has to be. I mean, some people will still talk shit anyway, because you know it's just fun for people to talk shit. But like the actual real narrative, the real conversation, to stick to what it actually is, the album has to hit. It has to be better than Forest Hills. It has to be better than Off Season. It has to be better than any other highly regarded album he put out. It just has to be top tier.
Yeah, it's definitely gotta be better. It's gotta be better than Revenge of the Dreamers. It's gotta be better than 2014 Forest Hills. That's a hard task, and it's gotta do it.
Honestly, I feel like at this point that needs to, because I know he's done a lot of, most all of his albums are not feature heavy. Honestly, I think this is the one to go feature heavy on it. Out rap everybody. Like, yeah, yo, everybody, yeah, get on this album so I can out rap you, and I will leave this industry knowing I out rapped all you niggas.
Yeah, and I feel like that would actually imagine he had a feature with J. Cole. I mean, J. Cole had a feature with Kendrick. He out rapped him because the only feature he's ever had with Kendrick, closest thing was Black Friday.
Yeah, and that was great. Like both of them did well.
Yeah, but Kendrick did better. I'm not gonna lie, for Black Friday. Cole did do good though.
It was kind of a hard. I think J. Cole did, like, he did this thing on the All Right instrumental, I
do like Cole's better
as a song. I think he did better at making a song.
as far as just like an aggressive like rap. I like Kendrick's better.
It like that beat. It was funny enough. Those beats, if like swapping them, they fit both of those artists swapped like just as well as the other way.
Yeah, honestly, the Alright beat fit J. Cole better, and then the Tale of Two Cities beat fit Kendrick better.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree though. I think like something like that would be a great way to like switch the narrative back up. But we just gotta see. But as it stands right now, people aren't showing enough respect for him being real with himself. And you know,
I think this is like a big turning point. Is everybody going to really be about the healing and positivity that they're talking about? I feel like a lot of it's going to be on Cole and the like reception that he gets. Because Cole, he's a head in hip hop, so it's kind of like making the healing thing what it actually looks like. I feel like Cole is doing a good job of showing what it actually looked like. Kendrick did a good job with his last album talking about it, showing what it actually looks like. It looks like some missteps, like Cole did with his apology and having to own up to it. You know,
that's a good point. There are missteps, and it just so happens is unfortunately this public, and this is the misstep, like the nature of the misstep. Granted, like given that you are in a competitive space and you have given the energy of one being like about whatever whoever coming at you to try to out rap you. It's just you should have went about it in a way that was more true to you. And like it was a misstep, and that's why I'm not one of these like super overly critical J. Cole fans. For one, I'm not one of those toxic fans anyway. But yeah, I'm just not overly critical about it in that way. Like this is just the nature of the misstep. You're going to have the criticism, you're going to have the negativity, but in spite of that, just continue to stay true to you and not give in to peer pressure again. And then just be gracious with yourself and move forward and do better.
Yes. But yeah, either way, I feel like the outcome of this beef is going to be a part of, not determined, but it's going to be a part of a change that's going to be reflected in the black community, thus the hip hop community. And I feel like it's going to be like surprisingly well in the long run for like J. Cole. The J. Cole fans and what he's doing and everything. I feel like we're moving slowly but surely toward that. We're purging out a lot of negativity and getting toward that, which is a process of healing.
Yeah. Shit. I was gonna say. It was funny because one of the things that was going around with when Kendrick dropped when the verse that Kendrick had came out, it was people making a comment of the healing didn't work, or like the therapy didn't work.
Yeah, I think that's what actually explains why in a Future song like that, he said, "My temperament bipolar, I choose violence." Mm-hmm. So I was just like, I'm like, oh, I get it. Because he's got that healing thing that he was talking about, his good side that's on Mr. Morales. And then he's like, yeah, bipolar is kicking in. It's villain time.
Yeah, and even that album explores that duality anyway. So this is just another reinforcement of that. And even looking at it at a different way, it's like you can be healed as much as possible. You still have room to have those certain shadow aspects to you, you know. It's like as long as you are familiar with them and recognize them, and then you're just at a point where like, look, I know this is maybe one of my lesser qualities, but I'm gonna own it, and I'm gonna stand 10 toes down with it, you know. And that to me, that's what he did.
Yeah, which you could argue that that's not being truly fully healed. You can make the argument that it's not.
Yeah, I think it depends on the nature of it, like depending on where it's coming from.
I think it depends on how well you control it.
That too.
Like if you know you're like you have a negative side to you that's really violent and everything, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you can control it. Like you direct your violence toward those that are causing other people harm. Right. You know, sort of like a superhero, like a Batman does. You know, well, Batman's a terrible example, but you know,
yeah,
like a hero does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
But it all depends. But yeah, are we gonna be going the more braggadocious route, Drake Future? Or are we gonna be going the more conscious, talking about things that are actually going on and relevant to our lives that actually help us improve our lives, like the Coles or the Kendricks, you know, the parties, you know, having fun, which Drake Future also represent too, as well as like drugs, Futures, you know, like I feel like one of these things is going to be the more dominant going forward within like the next 20 years. We'll see which one ends up on top.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the whole conversation of hip hop not being like the leading genre anymore, or like a lot of artists like struggling more so these days. I think honestly, a lot of those artists that are struggling now are the ones that are like chasing that commercial success. So I think it would make sense if things end up playing out to reinforce that trajectory, but we'll see.
Hip hop is ultimately an underground movement. So mainstream hip hop has pretty much been like black culture and everything in a form that's acceptable by white people and integrating it with their culture, you know. So I feel like the more of black culture is accepted into the mainstream by the world, the more freedom hip hop is allowed to have, you know, because there's still a lot of stuff that goes on in hip hop that you just don't hear about. you only hear like street performers or people locally doing, and then a lot of them don't make it. But it's still a part of hip hop, you know. And eventually it gets into the hands of somebody that's bigger, like maybe someone like a Drake, or Drake might see them and, you know, bring them to the stage. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when there's more acceptance of like all forms of black culture, I feel like there's going to be a greater impact that hip hop will have and is allowed to have, and even branch out into other forms of art forms that we have, like Afro beats and stuff like that, you know.
Word.
But yeah, I feel like the direction that hip hop goes in is definitely a good reflection of where we are going as a people. And yeah, that's all I got really on this subject.
All right, so on that note, we're gonna wrap this up. For those that are viewing, thank you for viewing the official first video recording of Cavernous Frequency. For those that happen to come across this and are unfamiliar with our older work, I believe I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Feel free to check out our podcast recordings of Cavernous Frequency, same name, and you can find those anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Yeah, Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
and,
Audible.
Yeah, and YouTube now.
Yeah, yep, and it's possible that we'll end up putting some of those recordings on YouTube anyway, but that'll be further down the line. But on that note, we're gonna get up out of here and catch y'all for the next recording. Peace.
All right.